Welcome, listeners. I'm so thrilled to be here for so many reasons. But one of them is I have Junie Moon with me today. She is the CEO of Midlife Love Out Loud. And, Junie's been doing this for about 30 years. And the reason that I wanted to have her help empower us and learn how to love ourselves on doing divorce different is because I think often as women, we can self-sabotage, and we're going to get into that a little bit more. But when you're going through divorce, or if you've just ended a marriage, let's take this time as an opportunity to learn how to love ourselves and to change that in our lives so that it sets us up for a great future. So that's why I'm so excited to have Junie on. Today we're going to talk about why so many women self-sabotage. How can we break those painful patterns? And we might even get into what are love shadows, which I don't know. So, Junie, welcome. I have to tell you, Junie Moon is like the greatest name ever. Is that really your name, or did you?
Well, thank you. Firstly, it's so great to be here. This is such a great topic. I love what you're doing in the world. And it could be done so differently after divorce and how to have an extraordinary second act. So this is a great topic, and I'm thrilled to share on it. And my name, it is June. I was born with the name June, originally June Schreiber. And I followed the moon since I was 10 years old. I did moon circles and
Really?
people kind of gave me the nickname Junie Moon throughout the years. And so when I started my business a while ago, I was like, this is a name that resonates with me. This feels authentic and yummy and fun. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to put it out there. And it took off like wildfire. So I'm like, okay, sounds good.
I love
I'm gonna keep it.
I love it. Okay, well, now that we've gotten to know you a little bit more about your name, I want to hear. So you've been doing this for 30 years.
Well, yes, Anne. So yes, I have been working with women, women's empowerment, supporting women to rise up and enjoy their life and love themselves deeply for over 30 years, for sure. I've been in the realm of personal growth work and helping women to break through patterns of self-sabotage and all the stuff that we're going to talk about today. That's been since 2007. So a little bit less than 30 years, but put it all together, it all goes together. And now my passion really is helping people literally get beyond the conscious mind, clean up the crap we've picked up along the way, and really have an extraordinary second act.
I love that. Okay, can you just fill me in on what's your authentic story? What led you to help women?
Yeah. So even though I was supporting other people for 30 years, there was a chunk of that where I was in need of that as well, learning and growing as I went along. I was in a 20-year marriage, and I walked on eggshells. I was afraid to speak my truth. I was afraid to ask to get my needs met. He had a spicy temper. I learned to be the good girl and be the nurturer and the people pleaser. And I say I learned because that's what we're going to talk about today. But I didn't realize that was what was going on. All I knew is I was in pain. I ate a lot of food to soothe myself. I know a lot of people have challenges in that arena, especially with our culture and what we think we're supposed to look like and be like. And food was my best friend. And I'm 5'3", and I was 200 pounds and miserable. And long and short of it is I was very, I had done therapy. I had done workshops. I'd read books. I thought I knew so much, and I did. I knew a lot, but it was neck up information. I didn't know how to really get into the 95% of the unconscious mind to actually get into the operating system of what was still in the background running, saying, oh, you better be careful. You better not speak up. Who do you think you are? So I found shadow work. I was lucky enough to find this body of work that was so transformational, and it got me to the place that I am now, where I just love my life. I have my voice. I've experienced next level love in such a deep way with these beautiful men. One in particular where it was just, I based my work on this spectacular relationship. And I knew I had to help others do the same. Because if I can get to this place, anyone can get to this place.
I love that. See, these are the people that I love to have on, people who have been through something and learned and want to share it. So
Yeah.
that's such an awesome story. And before we get into like the what are love shadows and the work, I want to get your opinion on why do so many women fall prey to self-sabotage? I know I have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I do too. I'm not on the mountaintop. I mean, there are moments where I was like, "Whoa, where did that come from?" But I bounce back so quickly, and that's when I work with my clients. And people ask me, "Well, am I going to get rid of my fear? Am I going to get rid of my insecurities or my doubts or that mean inner critic that beats me up on a regular basis and has me feel shame and scared?" And I say, yes, kind of, sort of. We lower the volume. We bounce back so much more quickly. So when I was off to the races, eating all that food, I was self-sabotaging, having boxes of cookies and numbing out and finding myself going up and down the scale 40, 50 pounds at a time, many times throughout my adult life. Now, if I have a moment, and I'm seriously around the food, it's not an issue with me anymore, but I might have moments of that, let me watch a little bit more TV, or let me just sleep in a little bit more. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. It's just I spot it faster. And instead of just going with it, I go, oh, wait a second, something's off here. And I bounce back so much more quickly, whether it's minutes or an hour, maybe a day. So your question was, why do we self-sabotage? Which is all we're going to talk about. The shadows, the shadow, the part of us it's a blind spot. We all have blind spots. There are these things that are going on inside of us that we're not aware of. We see the consequences, we see the behaviors, we hear ourselves saying things that we're like, oh my God, that was so not in alignment with who I am. Why do we do that? Why do we blow up our relationships? Why do we date the same guy over and over when we think it's going to be different? So there's so many forms of sabotage, getting in our own way, tripping ourselves up. And frankly, the main reason is fear. Fear that something bad is going to happen. Fear that if we actually do something differently, or we put ourselves, let's talk about love. If we finish a relationship, we get divorced, and we truly want a partnership, and we're excited to put ourselves out there and go, oh my God, now I know so much. It's going to be different. If there's a part inside of you that is unconscious going, ooh, the last relationship was so painful. Oh my God, she was cheated on. Oh my God, she's not ready. She sucks at relationships. Or, oh, she's now 50 or 60 and her boobs aren't as perky and her body's different. Who's going to want her? Fear trips us up and then has us, it prevents us from moving forward as a strategy to keep us safe. That's why we self-sabotage.
Okay. And so, is it more prevalent in women than men?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think we sabotage differently. I think we show up differently. I'm definitely more of an expert with women. However, especially with love and relationships. However, I've worked with some amazing men and they just get tripped up in different ways. I mean,
Right.
I had a guy that came to me years ago. It wasn't in the love realm, but it was in the business realm. And he was an extremely successful businessman. He knew his stuff, but he also knew that he was getting in his own way with a second business, and he didn't understand why. He had a huge blind spot. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Suffice it to say, we shined a light on that which he couldn't see. Why was he getting in his own way? And he had this huge breakthrough around something that happened when he was a child with his father that basically gave him a message around the new business. Don't do things like that, or people will not like you. And long and short, we broke through and he got his confidence back. He got his clarity back, and he believed it was possible. And that was it. He had to get beyond the information and get into that fear of, I don't want to drop the ball and be unloved. And at the end of the day, we're human beings and we are built to survive. We want to fit in. We don't want to disappoint people. We don't want to disappoint ourselves. We don't want to hurt people. We don't want people to not love us or leave us. And so there's a lot going on. behind behind the conscious mind going, be careful, be careful, be careful, for men and women.
Okay. So it sounds to me like the most important first step is to kind of recognize it. You said shine a light on it, and it sounds like that's hard. So
it isn't. I mean, I want to say that you're absolutely right that the first step is shining a light on it, but there's even a step before that, which is being aware that
right.
something is not working, that you're in pain, and then believing, even if there's like a tiny drop of belief, that it can change. And most of the time when it comes to those blind spots, you do need somebody to help you. I didn't do it by myself. I had some really amazing shadow workers and mentors that helped me see what I couldn't see by myself. And yes, that is the step. That's the first step to shift, is to see it, to kind of go, oh, I lost my self-esteem, or, oh, I'm afraid to express my voice because people might think I'm too much or too bubbly or too big or too bold. That's the shadow. We've cut off aspects of who we are because we're afraid if we actually reveal our true self, people are going to judge us. People aren't going to like us. People might leave us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking for my listeners who maybe can't get someone to help them, and I want to get into the shadow work a little bit more and what that is.
Sure.
But if they can't do that, maybe a start, what I always try to help people with, to look at what their emotions are, what the thoughts are behind it, and to just really sit with it and write it down.
Yeah.
Could that perhaps help them if they're in a time where they're so overwhelmed, there's like nothing that they can do, they can't get a coach right now? I mean, I'm kind of thinking maybe that, but so there's something that people can do if they can't call you, but of course we're going to have all your information in the show notes if they need to.
Yeah. And there's so much free information on my website. There's so much free information out there. It's just sometimes a rabbit hole. And then people come to me and say, I've been reading everything and doing everything on my own for years. And to your point, writing, getting it out of your head, dropping in and feeling what's going on inside of yourself. If you suddenly are in your fear, ask yourself, what just happened? What was I just thinking? What's my concern? And in reference to seeing what's in shadow, there's a really great exercise that I encourage people to do, which is to jot down all the people in their life that drive them nuts. Not people that are just like, they're not my cup of tea, but that person that when they walk in the door or you see them calling you and you roll your eyes and go, oh, how do I avoid them? They drive me insane. Ask yourself, what is it about them that gets under your skin? What is the personality characteristic? And that is a clue that you have some wounding around that aspect. So again, that's a beginning of understanding, oh, arrogant people really get under my nerves. People that think they're so full of themselves. Well, maybe you lost access to your own self-esteem, and now you just judge everybody who has some esteem. And maybe they're just overshooting and going, look at me, look at me. So it's even more of a like, oh, get away. But if you have lost access to that healthy part of going, you know what? I actually have some value. I have something to share. I feel really good about my skill. That's not being arrogant. That's just owning it. But if you ever shared that early on in your life and someone gave you a message of tone it down, don't be so full of yourself, you might have felt some pain around it and said, oh, I better not be like that. So write a list of all the qualities that drive you nuts. It's a great first step and exercise for you to start to shine a light on the stuff that needs to be looked at and healed.
Yep. I love that, Junie. And I think that I can use that even with people that I love, even with friends that I love. You know how there's some things and you're like, okay, I'm getting ticked off at you right now because you're not being here for me or whatever it is. I think that also is a great clue, even though you love them and you overlook it, because if you didn't, you wouldn't have any friends, right? Because everybody's going to have something. But I think when you just said that, it tricked in my mind. And I thought, I need to look at that more. Why, when my friend does this, why does that bother me so much? And I think that's a clue. And now, I'm watching the time and I'm like feeling like I'm getting so much information, but I feel like I want to talk about what are love shadows. We're kind of talking about them. What are they?
So we talked about the shadow. Somewhere along the way, we've decided there's a part of us that we better hide, we better not expose because something bad will happen. All right. So there's a part inside of you going, don't do that. And of course, strategies to keep you from doing that, sabotage. So in this body of work that I'm trained in, the original shadow work model, the trademarked, and I say that because there's a lot of shadow work out there, not to put them down in any way, it's just different. I'm trained in the original body of shadow work, and we have four main archetypes, four main energies that we work with, that we see kind of is the human being, all the four main aspects of how we show up. There's the magician. And the reason I'm telling you this, because all four of them have an aspect that can go sideways and create shadow, painful dynamics. So we have the magician that helps us have good discernment and helps us see clearly, make good decisions. We have the sovereign energy that helps us know our worth, believe in possibilities, tap into our joy, and go for our dreams. We have the lover archetype, which is where we are able to open and be vulnerable and be able to connect with others. And the warrior energy, which helps us say, hey, this is who I am. This is my identity separate from yours. And this is where healthy boundaries are and our good communication. So even just describing those four, you all can probably realize that if any one of them goes sideways, you're going to have some issues. So the magician shadow per se, and this is going to be such a like a drop in the bucket. I actually have a quiz that I know you're going to let them know about, where we dive in way more about what's your superpower and which archetype or which challenge do you have. And I give a full report on how to start healing these love shadows, because if you don't, you're going to keep recreating the same drama and the same challenges in your life, especially in relationships. So if you have a wounding in the magician realm and you got a message that you're bad, or if you show up in this way, you're in danger, you're not safe, then you have this magician-y wounding that says you better step back, you better not go forward. And that's where we sabotage a lot of our dreams, because the inner critic really goes wild there. So that would be a magician shadow, where you don't trust that you have good discernment. You can't see clearly, is this a good idea or not a good idea? You can get overwhelmed with all the possibilities, and you might, analysis paralysis. So you don't see the bad guy coming, or you overreact. So that would be the magician shadow. Do you want me to go to the other ones, or did you want to ask me any questions?
No, I do want you to. I'm listening. Go to the other ones.
Okay, great. Okay, great. We'll zip right through. So the sovereign, our worthiness, our value. Hey, if we don't believe that we have value, if we don't believe that we can have our dreams and open our heart in a way that's like, yes, I'm going to go for my desires. And so if we don't have that in check and we can't support ourselves in our visions, then again, we're not going to have that spark, that light. And if we don't know our value, how are we going to be treated by other people? Right. That's where we're going to have a sovereign shadow. We're not going to feel good enough. And if we don't feel good enough, people can tell us how beautiful we are, how special we are, how much we love, that you're loved. You can't let them in because you don't believe it. It's like, oh my God, I'm not even going to trust what you're saying, because I know I'm not good enough. So we need to cultivate that relationship with our good enoughness. The lover archetype, this is a biggie. They're all big, but what I see so often is when we have had a trust broken, when we've had abuse of some sort, when we felt unsafe and we got our hearts crushed, we close up. And so for the lover energy to connect and open and have intimacy, into me see, we need to be able to let people into our hearts. But we build walls around our hearts in the lover archetype if we don't feel safe or we don't trust ourselves. So that would be the lover shadow. And again, I'm being so dropping the bucket here. Yeah. And then the warrior, which a lot of women have so much wounding around, because don't be a bitch. Don't be a hard ass. Be in your feminine, be in your flow. Well, we throw the baby out with the bathwater. So if we have a wounding in the warrior energy that says all of that and has us feeling like we really can't speak our truth, we can't say, hey, that was not okay, you stepped on my toes in some way, then we become doormats and we give away our identity. We give away what matters to us, especially if we've had abuse. It's like we're going to be walking on eggshells like I did. I micromanaged everything. And so I didn't have my voice. And then I found my metaphorical sword and learned how to have those difficult conversations so I could get my needs met, so I could have healthy boundaries. But I had huge warrior in shadow, and I wasn't able to really stand my ground in a healthy way. And again, for all of them, we want it to be in a healthy way. We don't want to just blast open up our heart and be vulnerable in the lover realm. We can get hurt. We don't want to be so full of ourselves and think, oh my gosh, I am so amazing. We're going to shine too brightly. And, with the warrior, you don't want to be a bully or overpower people. So when I work with people over time, and I work with one-on-one clients as well as group programs, we spend time finding what it is about you, your unique story, your unique wiring, and take back those aspects that you lost access to so you can have balance or more balance where all four of them are working together and you can feel healthier and stronger and be able to have a very different second half of life.
I mean, I love that. And it's another way to make divorce an opportunity, And
oh
so,
my God, yes.
Yep. So listeners, if you're curious, go to the show notes. We're going to have how you can connect with Junie, how you can take that quiz and start healing so that your future this can be a turning point and you won't be in the same position. So I love that. And Junie, I'm so thankful that you were here today. And I want you to know, listeners, we're going to delve into a little bit different subject on Saddle Up Live on my other podcast. So please check us out there. We're on all the platforms and listen to hear more. We're going to talk about different things with Junie on Saddle Up Live. So thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Take good care.